E aí, Noyers, aqui é a Camila Frender do É Noia Minha. Eu tô participando do Amigo Secreto de Podcasters do TikTok. E sabe quem que eu tirei? Natália Souza, do Para Dar Nome às Coisas. Meu presente é um livro que tá bombando no TikTok. É O Avesso da Pele, do Jefferson Tenório. Uma história linda sobre a complexidade das relações humanas.
O TikTok esse ano fez milhões de pessoas voltarem a ler. Um simples TikTok pode gerar um grande impacto. Descubra livros incríveis e muito mais no TikTok.
Sair da escola já com uma formação profissional no currículo? Parece bom demais pra ser verdade, né? Pois é. No ensino técnico do Senac, isso é possível. É ensino médio junto com formação técnica, que acontece durante os 3 anos. Lá, eles usam metodologia para projetos, desenvolvendo competências como resolução de problemas, pensamento crítico e colaboração, além de valores éticos e sustentáveis. Quer saber? Senac. Acesse sp.senac.br/ensino médio e saiba mais.
We may live over 5,000 miles from Lincoln Financial Field, but what we lack in proximity, we make up for in film study, and each and every week, we'll be bringing you in-depth film breakdowns from across the pond and the Sooner State. Welcome to On the Shane page. I am your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL, and I'm joined by BGN's own film guru, Jonny Page. Give him a follow on Twitter at JohnnyPage9. Jonny, I saw you broke some news on Twitter yesterday. Something about a book that was being read or something?
Yeah, that was good fun, wasn't it? I was going to say good evening, but it's actually properly afternoon. It's probably seriously morning where you are. Yeah, if anyone wondering, as you can probably tell, I'm clearly in a hotel room. I've also just realised, Shane, that I am directly in front of the door. So if the cleaners come in, they're going to get the weirdest sight ever because I'm I can't explain how awkward it is that I'm sitting, but there's no like desk in here. There's like a teeny little table where the coffee machine was. I managed to fit my laptop here. My mic is like hovering on the edge of my laptop. So if the sound quality is bad or I sound terrible, I do apologize. But yeah, so funny story. Today's show hopefully will be a little quicker. It's technically, I am on holiday, guys. But I've got to give a few thanks and stuff at the start. So yeah, it was very strange yesterday. So my wife is an absolute legend. And she's very supportive of the work I do for the Eagles. So she knows that I take a bit of time, even when we're away. So I'm sitting there posting clips. And literally Sunday night, we were in a pub and I was watching the Eagles game on my phone the whole night. So, you know, that's life. And she was like, I'll take a book. It's fine. We'll have a few drinks, take a book. And I took a photo of her with her book and stuck it on Twitter, as you do, to say shout out to her. And someone on Discord and also on Twitter noticed that the book was clearly about childbirth. Or giving birth, should I say. So, yeah, I had to very quickly come public. It would be a very strange book for her to read. You're going to bring it up now, aren't you? Yeah, the Twitter detectives are out in full force. So someone has seen that, and shout out to the Discord, shout out to Twitter. They'll be very polite about it. The guy in Discord, was it Matt who broke it? Very politely, with a great comment, just like saying like, oh, did you mean to share that? And then someone on Twitter like, congrats, first child. And I'm like, oh, crap. So, yeah. Baby is due in March, so a few months till then. So if you ever need a reason to join the On the Shane page Patreon and support the show, not only am I recording this, Shane, from a hotel room on holiday, and my wife has conveniently just like got out for lunch to let me do this. Support the show, baby coming. My wife is a legend. Support the show to support her. And I'm currently up north in York, nowhere near London, recording from a hotel room, which is very, very strange. It's been very weird. I've had amazing comments, by the way. People are lovely online. So I had a lot of lovely comments from people giving me recommendations of books for like sort of childbirth, and also just saying like my DMs are open if you want to talk. Yeah, people are awesome online. I know there's a lot of idiots online and it can be terrible, but I have such a good experience with Eagles fans in general. The On the Shane page Discord is just been popping this morning. I know we say it every week, but like some of the stuff we're talking about this morning is really cool. So yeah. Been a really nice couple of days away. I only got here Sunday. We literally got here about 2:00, and then like 4 hours later, I'm streaming the Eagles game on my phone. So dinner was on me on Sunday, Shane, as were all of the drinks. That's sort of how these things work. But how are you anyway? Having a lovely week off, leaving me to go solo last week.
Yeah, I am good. Been traveling all over Oklahoma, which is a pretty lame place to travel, but went to go see family. And now back recording early on a Tuesday morning for me. And, we've spoken about recording on a Tuesday afternoon is kind of tough. Tuesday morning is a whole different thing. And so yesterday, and I usually do 2 shows on Tuesday night, and we had to do those yesterday because of New Year's. So this week's also been a disaster, but it's just that time of the football season. But yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to you guys. As I started to throw to that, I couldn't help but flash back to the old Kist and Solak pod days when Solak got engaged. And I don't know if I'm sure you were listening back then, but when Kist was leading him into his big news, and then Solak dropped the bomb that he got a new microphone, and that was good fun. So throwback, shout out to Kist and Solak. Shout out to the Patreon Discord. Really cool to wake up this morning to Alex had broken down a bunch of Quinyon Mitchell's technique stuff. That was cool to see. We definitely have the best community. So glad that you got a lot of love over that. And, hopefully everything goes well. And, Jonny, you're going to be not sleeping a lot. You'll have lots of time to break down free agent film at midnight or 2 a.m. in March. Yeah. That'll be fun.
Yeah, when I start tweeting NFL draft takes at 3:30 a.m. UK time, and everyone's wondering what the hell is he doing in April? It was Matt, by the way, who broke it. Also, if you're in the Discord, lads, you get holiday photos from myself as well. So I was in a really cool Viking hall yesterday. There's a pub that's based off the Vikings because the north of England was invaded by the Vikings. Or something, and we still like to mention it a lot. So it's a really, really cool place. And I was sitting in a lovely long hall, and I'm sharing these beer photos. And then it was Matt, by the way, Matt, who's watching live as well. He's put a few good comments in, just casually mentioned, just peep the book title she's reading. So I was like, oh, no. I better mention this publicly now. So there you go. Comment as well saying it's the first time watching. Yeah, it's not normally like this, Boyer. Normally, it's a bit more sane. We don't normally waffle about pregnancy for 6 minutes.
It would be strange if we did, to be honest. I mean,
it would be a very weird podcast, especially if it was on the Eagles. If we did every 6 minutes. And also, I can openly say, because I never lie to people, this is definitely the least I've watched a game this year. I watched it live on my phone. I have watched the All-22, but I would be lying if I was studying the minute details of every single thing in this performance. So I watched a few things in particular, and I've got takes on those few things. But yeah, I think you're going to do a lot of heavy lifting this week, even though it's very, very early for you. And I'm surprised people are watching this early in the States at all, to be honest. Because what is it where you are? 9 a.m., 10 a.m.?
8:30 where I am, 9:30 in Philly.
Yeah, that's early on a Tuesday to do this. So I appreciate you as well getting it done early. Right, shall we start, Shane? What do you want to do? Offense, defense? Where do we go? What do you want to talk about for longest this week?
Let's dive into the offense first.
Yeah, let's do it. Do you want to start things off?
Sure. I'll start us off. And I mean, it's the battle of the backups, and then you got the backup for the Eagles as the game went on. So I figured I would end up talking about both. And so let's start off with the guy who started the game. Let's start with Kenny Picket. And I thought Kenny Picket was up and down in this game. Obviously, the first drive doesn't go very well. You're also kind of behind the sticks from the start. And I just wanted to showcase some of the things I thought Pickett did well and some of the things that he didn't do very well. This throw is 2nd and 17, and he's just going to throw an out route to A.J. Brown at the top of the screen. And again, these clips are on Twitter. If you're just listening and you want to follow along in your podcasting app later, you can pull them up. But I thought he throws with really good anticipation here. He's already winding to release as Brown's coming out of his break. And, as a backup quarterback, know where your bread is buttered. You come into a game, you get A.J. Brown, one of the top 5 receivers in the game with a free release. Just throw the out route. And he does here, and it works, to perfection. And then I think this is actually the very next play. They get a 3rd and 8, and you're going to get Grant Calcaterra is sort of running a clear out route, and Devontae Smith has an option route. I think it's an option route because he kind of stutters at the top, and he's going to break outside. And this is where Pickett's looking. And to be honest, I don't know why he doesn't throw it, because it's pretty clear right here at this freeze frame that Grant Calcaterra is pulling this outside guy, and there's no one outside where Devontae Smith is going to break. So I'm not sure if Pickett's just uncomfortable with the option route. I mean, that's a pretty clear read on an option route to throw that. Maybe he's just not as comfortable with Devontae Smith, although he does find him, a couple times for big plays later in the game. I'm not sure why he turns this down, but he does. and he sort of scrambles out and then throws up a prayer to Grant Calcaterra that Grant Calcaterra answers with an amazing one-handed catch. But it's basically back-to-back plays with out routes against free releases, and he throws one to A.J. Brown. He doesn't throw the other to Devontae Smith. So, clearly they're not friends anymore. No, I'm not trying to make something out of that other than to say he was inconsistent at times, but generally I thought he was at his best, just hitting that back foot and getting the ball out. And this is the touchdown to Devontae Smith, and I think you're going to talk about some things with it later, so I won't do too much other than to say you get Devontae Smith on sort of this corner/fade route. The Cowboys are running basically what amounts to a cover one blitz, and it's Saquon or Kenny Gainwell, I believe, stays into block, and they pick this up. And I thought that Kenny Picket does a good job. Now it's wide open. Andrew Booth isn't even on the same planet as Devontae Smith. But I thought Pickett does a good job, and you can see from the back view, like he steps up because Mailata sort of gets beaten. Now, Pickett wants to drift. You can see that, and he's going to drift right into somebody. This is never a position you want to be in as a quarterback, but I thought he did a good job of climbing the pocket and delivering that throw. And if we're honest, that's something Hurts could use a little bit of work on. Hurts is probably going to fade out of that pocket at times. And so I'll shout out Kenny Pickett. I thought that was a good job of staying in the pocket and delivering that touchdown. Next play, you get A.J. Brown at the bottom of the screen. And again, free release, one-on-one, just throw the out route. And he was really good. He's just, he telegraphs that all the way. I don't know what the corner's doing. Like, to be honest, AJ, he should probably look that off just a smidge because it's really clear where he's going at the beginning. And then you get a deep ball to Devontae Smith. And Pickett can push the ball downfield. Like, that's a good throw. He doesn't have like an elite arm. He's certainly not as good of a deep ball thrower. He's a little weak armed at times, but he can make those throws downfield. And they were having an easy time exploiting the Cowboys secondary at times. And then this is the last play I'll show. This one's a bit more of a negative. I think you're going to get a play action, and you sort of get a clear out route from the bottom of the screen, and you're just going to get like a high-low crossing routes from the top of the screen. And he has A.J. Brown open at the top of his drop. And so if you watch it, back foot hits the ground, A.J. Brown is open. Like, you're throwing this into the void, and this should be a big play. But watch the amount of time it takes him to throw this. He hitches like twice, and he gives the corner, I think it's Deron Bland here, a chance to undercut that route. And so it wasn't all good with Pickett. It was good enough. It's what you expect from a backup, is to be able to come in and do some things. And I thought Pickett was fine in this game. I thought he was better than I expected him to be based on watching him in the preseason and watching last week. So, that's why the Eagles went out and got him. They wanted to be able to insert a backup quarterback against a 500 team at the end of December to secure a home playoff game. Like, you don't expect to be able to win playoff games with a backup. It's nice when you can. Shout out to Nick Foles. But if you can go 500 with a backup as a starter for a 2-game stretch, you generally consider that a job well done.
Yeah, I've sort of have a soft spot for Pickett because purely I liked him pre-draft. So there's always something that I think there's more to him. To me, and you didn't actually show the play, Shane, that we don't need to show because most people who watched the game can remember it live when he got crushed on that ridiculous play to A.J. Brown. And in a weird way, that's sort of what I don't like about him. Even though it's an amazing play, I think in his brain, he's like, that's the kind of QB I am. I'm a playmaker. And it shouldn't be. He's got average arm. He reads the game pretty well. I think his biggest flaw is his like hitch and his release. I think I'm not a QB mechanics guy, as you know. I'm sort of the opinion that QB mechanics like doesn't matter until it matters, which is a phrase I use quite a lot. But like, he takes a long time to get the ball out, like a really long time. I think sometimes he can see it. His brain sees it, but he doesn't throw it on time. And I think that's because he has like this double hitch issue. He had the same last week on the deep shot to A.J. Brown where it's there. He sees it. He knows where he's going. He just doesn't throw it that well. But there you go. I'm actually going to talk, Shane, about a couple of plays that you showed. I might as well do my first point, which is that I thought the Eagles were exceptionally good in pass protection this week, especially against the blitz. So you can actually roll the same clips that you've shown. I think the first one is the Grant Calcaterra catch, which is obviously easy to look at. And again, this is another example you mentioned about Pickett trying to be maybe a little bit too good outside the pocket. The Eagles were just so impressive this game in pass protection. Like, this is quite a nice blitz by the Cowboys. They disguise it quite well. They end up dropping, I think, the edge to the top of the screen into coverage, and he's got a hand in the dirt. You're not expecting him to drop, especially because the Cowboys are already sort of 2 over 2 on there, so he doesn't have to drop. And then the Cowboys send an overload from the right hand side, which means they end up essentially running 4 against 3 offensive linemen. You'd sort of expect to get a free rusher here, and they don't. Saquon reads it extremely well. He's got his eyes to the right, first of all, and then he gets immediately to the left when he sees what's happening. And he doesn't just, he's not just a body. He wins easily. The corner doesn't get near him. I think Saquon's pass pro is sort of underrated because of how good he is. I think half the reason why he doesn't do it on third down is not just because Kenny Gainwell's good. It's just because it gives him a break as well. So it makes sense to get him out of there when you've got 2 running backs who can both live in pass pro. But that's really, really good from the Eagles offensive line as well as Saquon. I think my favorite rep, though, of pass protection is the touchdown to Devontae Smith, which I think you had. Was it your 4th clip or something? This is a really, really good blitz pickup by Kenny Gainwell. Oh, you got the back view, which is even better. I didn't have the back view, actually, of my film thread. So I believe the Cowboys are running a stunt here, and they do a really good job, basically, getting 2-on-1 on Juergens. I think Juergens does an exceptionally good job, and I think you'll talk about him later, so I won't go into too much detail on what he does. But he sort of gets a hand on both of them, which is quite hard.
I'm only going to talk about him run blocking, so feel free.
Easy. I think what he does here is really good. So although he knows who he's blocking, you can see him just ever so slightly trying to slow them both down. It's really hard to get hands on both players. It's almost like trying to a bouncer at a nightclub where 2 guys are trying to run past him, and he's just waiting for his mate to help out. Gainwell reads this really, really well. He sees what they're trying to do, so he essentially takes or he allows the defensive tackle that he thinks he's going for to go to Juergens. A lot of running backs here, Shane, would just double up on the same tackle and allow the other guy to come through. This is really, really good. I mean, the other 4 are just exceptional. Becton, Johnson, Dickerson, my last. It doesn't get any better, man. As a pass pro unit, they are so strong at times. But when you rush 6 and you block 6 that well, when you give the QB that kind of pocket, you will have a lot of success. I won't show any other clips, but there are a few others that were really good. The Eagles' last touchdown. In fact, actually, Shane, I think you're going to talk about Tanner McKee. So when you get to that last touchdown, I won't repeat the same clip here, but it's another example of the Eagles winning versus 5 rushers. So I thought the Eagles' blitz pass protection was really good this game. I think it's gone under the radar that the Eagles have gone from the worst team in the NFL against the blitz to a very, very solid team against the blitz. And when we're talking about Kellen Moore and what he's done this year, you have to give him a huge amount of credit. Do you want to talk about this one, Shane, or do you want me to run through it very quickly? It's a pretty straightforward one, to be fair.
Yeah, you go ahead and take pass pro on it.
Yeah, so the way I would speak about it is essentially the Eagles are using their running back to help out. So they're 6 on 5 here. So Kenny Gainwell has got the linebacker in case he blitzes. So they're essentially ready to go 6 on 6 if they need it. But the linebacker doesn't actually blitz. So Kenny Gainwell is basically a free man, and you can't pick up a 5-man pressure much better than this. You can't do any better. That is as good as a pocket as McKee would ever get. The 3 I really like, Shane, is the left-hand side. I mean, yeah, that is as good as it gets for those watching. Because if you look at the left-hand side, the Cowboys send, if you go back just ever so slightly, Shane, and the Cowboys actually move their edge rusher or inside to Dickerson, and Mailata ends up just picking up the oncoming rusher really easily. And that guy, by the way, is Micah Parsons, who's not bad either. So you can see here what could happen is Mailata could shift inside with Parsons, and then the linebacker blitzing around the edge could come free, but they don't. It's just really good communication. They're obviously very, very well coached. Mailata passes him off to Dickerson. You can see him almost let him know he's coming, and then he still has the athleticism to get out on the linebacker rushing. I just thought that was really, really good. And it wasn't the only time in this game, but the Eagles' pass protection against the blitz was really strong, and it's become a real strength of this offense. And I will say the one thing that's different this year to last year, Shane, is the Eagles are never -1 in protection. So except for last week when they made a mistake, if they think the team's going to rush 6, they will leave 6 men in to protect. And that's the big thing we spoke about Kellen Moore. One of the things he does is he's not afraid to leave an extra guy in. So technically you could say there, well, Gainwell doesn't need to stay in because they're only rushing 5. But the fact is they could blitz 6. Therefore, the Eagles will leave 6 in. They never want to be -1 in pass pro. And you can compare that to last year when it felt like the Eagles actively wanted you to send a free rusher. So they would have one more guy who could be open in the route concept. It's a massive difference. So big credit to Kellen Moore and the Eagles offensive line.
Yeah. we got to go to a comment here because I need an opinion from you, Jonny, because Kygella says the key question today is, do I have a long-lost brother? The guy who caught the Tanner McKee ball looks very similar. So we need a ruling on this from Jonny and from
No,
the chat.
he just has a ginger beard. That's where the similarities basically end there. I'm not feeling it, but maybe Shane, if you had the shaved head, the Eagles hat on, doing the bicep pose, maybe so, but I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I have very poor facial recognition skills. So somebody will be like, oh, that looks like somebody else. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. Okay, well, let's keep rolling here, and I'll get to the Eagles' backup quarterback. Let's talk Tanner McKee. Tanner McKee did something crazy in this game. He became the first quarterback in NFL history to ever throw multiple touchdown passes with under 5 passing attempts, which is like the most random stat you could ever come up with. I did not come up with it. I saw it on Twitter. I think it was OptaStats that first put it out, but I thought I'd just show all 4 of his throws because I like to talk about the passing game and quarterbacks in the same way Jonny likes to talk about the running game. And I basically was like, hey, Jonny, I'm going to talk about the entire passing game and the entire running game. So good luck coming up with points this week. But here we go. First pass of the game for McKee. He throws a slant to the top of the screen. And this is the first play they gave to Kenny Pickett was a slant route that he overthrew A.J. Brown. The first pass play they gave Tanner McKee was a slant route to Devontae Smith that he throws behind him. But it is catchable, and Devontae Smith does bring it in. But it's a clear little read. You're just clearing it out with Grant Calcaterra. Ball's a little behind Devontae, but he brings it in. So get a little bit in rhythm. And then we're going to get back-to-back plays where they run a back shoulder sort of, I'd call it a fade from an outside receiver, whatever you want to call it. But he's throwing this back shoulder jump ball to A.J. Brown. And such a good throw. Like, I wish that A.J. Brown would have been able to complete the catch here. I saw on Twitter somebody said that the rule should be if you catch it with one hand, you should only have to get 1 foot down. And I like this rule. This is a great catch by A.J. Brown. Just unfortunately, he's unable to get that second foot down. And honestly, the ball placement is like almost perfect. He puts it on the back shoulder. Only A.J. Brown has a shot at it. It's maybe just a smidge high, but I thought that was a great throw by Tanner McKee. And they liked that look because literally the next play, or, I mean, in Game Pass film, it's 3 plays later because you get an encroachment and then a false start. So it's basically the next play from the same yard line, even though there's back-to-back penalties. They just do the same thing. They move A.J. Brown inside this time to give him a little more room. They run that fade, back shoulder ball to the pylon for the touchdown. So it's really nice for McKee. And then you get down to the final pass he threw. And you talked about the protection on this play. I'll talk about the route. They're basically going to crash, and he's going to throw this ball to Devontae Smith before the out route even breaks. Like, it's already out. He's coming out right now. And then it's a nice little run after the catch. To be honest, it's pretty bad defense from the Cowboys. But Tanner McKee looked like he belonged in this game as well. And it's really the best case scenario for the Eagles because you win, so you don't have to play starters this week. And we won't get into the whole debate about what the Eagles should do there. I'm sure that'll be the whole conversation on Twitter and podcasts this week. But it's nice that A, you get the win. It gives you flexibility. B, both guys looked good. And I don't know who we're going to see in week 18, but you are maybe in a position where you can move on. You can trade one of these guys this offseason and Picket or McKee. I don't know if the Eagles will do that, but you probably could. And they've both boosted their value. McKee over, a couple of preseasons and then what he did in this game and Picket over having a good game. And so it's a great place to be in for the Eagles to feel some confidence in your backups and also potentially have the opportunity to flip one in the off season.
Yeah, some would say, Shane, quarterback factory. Some would say. McKee threw 4 passes, didn't he? 4 of the greatest passes we've ever seen. I sort of love how much McKee's loved by a journalist on podcasts because of how good he was, obviously, in training camp in the preseason. Shane, just really quickly, before I do my next point, could you go back to the touchdown to A.J. Brown, the back shoulder throw? There's a couple of cool things, I think. I know you were breaking it down from McKee's point of view, but from a schematic point of view, I thought it was a couple of cool things. So if you just pause it, literally right here, I think the first nice thing you see is this is not that we've seen that often. Firstly, you've got Grant Calcaterra in the backfield. And the reason why they've got Calcaterra in the backfield is because Kenny Gainwell is lined up at outside wide receiver next to AJ Brown. We haven't really seen this that much from the Eagles. When you motion them out late and you motion Calcaterra into the backfield, it can give you an idea of what's happening. So the Cowboys have a linebacker lined up over Kenny Gainwell. Now, some teams have got good days and disguising coverage, but it's really hard to disguise zone coverage on the outside there. If you've got a linebacker out there, you're pretty much saying we're playing man on the left. If you look at the guy covering AJ Brown, he's lined up immediately opposite him. It's pretty clearly going to be man coverage on the left-hand side. So the second you know that pre-snap, it makes it a really easy read for McKee. And we sometimes talk about offensive coordinators making life easy for the QB. This is one of an example of what we mean when we say that, because pre-snap, you're making everything very, very simple for him. The other thing I love about this play, Shane, is just how easy AJ Brown makes this catch look. He makes this look like, I don't know, what's the easiest thing in the world you could do? For me, I don't know, tie my laces. You don't even think about it. You just do it. This is not even he hasn't even got to try here. He doesn't look like he's really running at full speed. He just sort of turns around, catches it, jogs off. Yeah, that's another touchdown. It's greatness is being able to do things like that so effortlessly. It's sort of bizarre how easy he makes that look. And yeah, I don't really care who plays week 18, in all honesty, between McKee or Picket. As I said, we won't get into the whole playing time debate. It might be nice to see both of them if they're fit and healthy. But yeah, I reckon one of them may go next year because both of them have shown something. But you never know. I mean, you'd have to be a bit of an idiot to take a shot on McKee after 4 throws in this game. But there'll be someone out there who loved him pre-draft who'll be going into his general manager's office saying, see, I told you, this is what I saw. But yeah, quarterbacks and any position, it drives me a little bit insane hearing what people said about Jaden Daniels this year, because we heard it about CJ Stroud last year. You have to put a lot of film out there before people start noticing weaknesses. So the Eagles have simply not shown enough McKee or Pickett film for anyone to have a real honest opinion about who should play or who should be QB2, because they haven't really played enough is the honest answer.
One thing I will say too is I feel like every pass that McKee threw, the film clip is 30 seconds long, because they would legitimately come up to the line and then he would it would seem like he was changing the entire play every time. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but he at least seemed pretty aware of what he was looking for pre-snap and getting into what he wanted. I definitely don't think they were just trotting him out here and saying, hey, run this no matter what, because it definitely looked like he was changing things at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I think you could just say as well that this is the perfect time to come in as a backup, because you've had 16 weeks to learn the film. You're not getting thrown in week 3, week 4. You've seen the offense develop. You've been in 16 QB meeting rooms post-game with Jalen. You sort of have an idea of what's going on. I think both those quarterbacks have shown the benefit of that, I guess. Right, I'll get to my second point. I might combine my second and third chain. I'll do them in one. So I'll start with point 2. I'm just going to talk about Saquon. I've already shown Saquon in pass protection, but there was a couple of really nice runs in this game. And to be honest, I call it Saquon, but I should just say running game. It's basically what I want to talk about, is some of the runs in this game. I didn't think the running game was great early on. And I think that's 2 weeks in a row now, or 3 weeks in a row, where the running game has not been as consistent as I'd like early on. I think the Eagles seem to still have a few mishaps. There was one play in particular I noted that I didn't clip up, where Grant Calcaterra was left on Micah Parsons, and that went about as well as you could imagine. You're smiling because I remember you've obviously seen the same play. It didn't go. It went about as well as you could think. But I think once the Eagles got going, I think the run game really got going this week. The positive was we saw some under center, because we didn't see any last week, which was cool. But the Eagles had success from zone, gap scheme in this game, and I thought I'd break down a couple of ones that I enjoyed. First one is clip number 3 on my film thread chain. So for those of you that don't watch and are listening as a podcast, if you hopefully follow us on Twitter, if you're listening to this, then just check the film thread out and you can see the plays alongside it. Field number 3 is just a very standard outside run or split zone, run with Grant Calcaterra coming back across the formation. I could play this 10 times and just watch every single offensive lineman, because basically every single guy wins. You're right. Technical difficulties as Shane has lost the play.
I pushed the wrong button and I closed the tab.
Outrageous.
We're back. We're so back.
Get me back in charge after 1 week. There was no mistakes last week. All 5 offensive linemen win, every single one. Cam Jurgens ends up in space, and I think you'll talk about him in this play. In fact, Jack, Shane, how many plays have you got
2, and this is 1. So yeah,
is this 1? All right,
we'll just throw it in there. Go ahead. We can cut that point out as we go.
Yeah, no worries. There's nothing exceptional I want to point out here in particular. Just how every single offensive lineman wins, like every single one. If you're watching it live, you can see it in slow-mo here, and like every single one dominates. It's not like there are any close blocks. And I think the other good part of a run game is getting downfield receivers to help out. So on this play, you get Jahan Dotson sustain the block. Dotson's man does end up tackling Barkley, but I actually think I blame Barkley a little bit for running really close to him. I think Barkley could actually break that a little bit sooner and not give him a chance. But to be fair, as a receiver, once the guy runs past you, it's not your job to keep hold of him. You don't want to get done for a holding penalty. So I think Dotson does a good enough job here. So you get outside zone. Then there was 2 other runs that I really liked. And this would be my third point, Shane, combined into this one. So my third point is going to be about duo, because we haven't spoken much about duo this year at all. Play number 6 on my film thread. Under center duo is a Kellen Moore special. This is not a Jeff Stoutland run. Jeff Stoutland is phenomenal. The Eagles do not run under center duo without Kellen Moore. And Matt chiming in, saying it took me 29 minutes to mention under center. We had the over-under on 30 minutes, so just made the bet. They did get some under center this week. Duos it's a horrible play to spot live because it can sometimes very easily look like inside zone. And anyone that tells you they know if it's inside zone or duo is lying without being in the film room. But I have a pretty good idea that when you've lined up 2 tight ends, under center, Kellen Moore, it's going to be duo. The 2 double teams look really, really obvious here. This to me is duo. I think there's less of an emphasis on getting to the second level and the linebackers, and there is more of an emphasis on just shifting the first 2 guys. You get another great block from Devontae Smith, by the way, from the right-hand side as well, which is pretty cool to see. We won't talk about the tight end on the floor because we'll ignore at times Eagles tight end blocking in this one. But what I really, really like here, sorry, was I wrong? Is it not a tight end? I'm looking at it.
I was just I was gonna mention the tight end.
Oh, you were? Okay.
Just not how where he ends up, just watch how late he is. Everybody's moving and he's still just sitting there. Like the guy his hand on takes a full step before he's like, oh, I should move.
Yeah, and then ends up on the ground, gets better and better. Devontae has a really good block, but this run is all about Saquon, man. He presses the line of scrimmage really quickly. He reads 1 lane on the interior, realizes that's not going to be open, and then bounces it outside. So now he's going to his second gap. He reads 25, fill it, bounce it outside again, sees Devontae Smith blocking, sees number 2's head flashing inside, so knows he can bounce it outside, and then just outruns him. I didn't film the end of this play, but I love it because the guy who tackles Saquon sort of gets up and just gives him a little high five. You can't really see it here, but I think he's basically just like, yeah, you're really good, aren't you? I think there's like a little bit of like an element of like, oh man, you're good. And it was quite cool to watch. And then the final one I break down, Shane, is, I mean, I'm done for the offense this week, is the 2K run. The 2K run itself. I think there's such a nice thing about the 2K run. Number 1, the Eagles ran counter, which, as you know, is my favorite run anyway. I mean, counter bash would be my favorite run, but counter in general is my favorite run. I just love the 2 pulling linemen going in the opposite direction to the running back's first step. The Eagles 2 pulling players on this play, Shane, this could be a great film the pub quiz question in the future. It's Tyler Steen.
I know which play it is. It is. It's
Tyler Steen, backup lineman,
Jenkins.
And EJ Jenkins. That'd be a great question in like 10 years' time. Who were the Eagles' 2 pulling guards, or pulling linemen, should I say, on Saquon Barkley's 2,000-yard rush? And the whole pub would look at the guy in charge like, what the hell are you asking that? Who the hell knows that question?
Backup offensive lineman and tight end 4.
Yeah, exactly. And it just sums up, Shane, though, is it's a great block by both of them. Jenkins does end up on the ground, but, he does enough early on. But Steen's block is fantastic. Steen's a good player, man. Like, you feel for Steen because he should be starting for any other team, I think. It's a really, really good block by Tyler Steen. A really, really good block. And then the other thing I just like, Shane, is Saquon's patience at the line of scrimmage. I think because he's so fast, his vision doesn't get commented on enough. He has to let his blocks develop here, but you don't want to stop your feet. That little juke he makes to find the hole. Like, we talk about pressing the line really quickly, but showing enough patience to let your blocks develop. Find the hole and then just explode through it. Like, EJ Jenkins is all over the place here, and he just sort of avoids his limbs, sort of jumps around him, and then just runs straight through. Like, he is a special, special back. And I'm not going to get into should he play next week. It's not for this kind of podcast to discuss it. I will just say the fact he's got 2,000 yards and he doesn't look like he's slowed down at all is unbelievable. His conditioning must be top. He had 30 carries in this game, Shane. That was his 30th rep, and he looks as good as play one. He does not look any less explosive than he did in week one. He has had about as good of a season as a running back as you will ever see. Incredibly impressed at how explosive he still looks, considering it's the final week of the season we're heading into.
Yeah, this wasn't on my notes, but I got to show you my favorite Saquon play. And it's stupid, but I thought this was hilarious. So watch Saquon pressing the line of scrimmage here. He starts to cut it back. Now, if I'm the running back, I'm probably just trying to go through here and get a yard or two because there's guys everywhere. But my favorite thing is that Saquon tries to duck underneath Mozzie Smith and Landon Dickerson. They're engaged in a block. I just died laughing watching this. He just tries to duck so and run underneath them.
And the funny thing is, knowing Saquon, he could as well. He's a freak athlete. He really is an unbelievable athlete.
I've never seen a running back try to duck underneath an offensive lineman and a defensive tackle that are engaged in a block. I thought that was hilarious. So, okay. I'll talk real quick about Cam Jurgens. You showed the first play. Cam Jurgens is just so much fun to watch in the run game. We get average depth of target for quarterbacks. I want average depth of block for running or for offensive linemen, because Cam Jurgens' average depth of block is probably 10 yards in the run game. But something else they did in this game was they did a same side toss out of shotgun a couple of times. And I don't recall having seen that from the Eagles before. And I really liked it. And I was like, they only did it with Tanner McKee. Is this something Tanner McKee likes? Why would you just have something dialed up that your third string quarterback likes? I don't know, but I thought it was cool. And this one in particular, just watch Cam Jurgens getting out to block on the edge. They pinned down with Landon Dickerson, and he's just off to the races, just moving multiple guys several yards after contact.
Sorry, Shane, that rep, he's unbelievable. For those of you watching, he's so good, Jurgens, in space. We've said this quite a few times this year. It's mental. We don't even say the word Jason Kelce. We just don't say it. I don't want to be rude, but the Eagles haven't really missed him, and that's an incredibly strange thing to say. They can run the same stuff. They can run all the pinball stuff the same. Jurgens can do it all. It's sort of ridiculous how athletic in space he is. I think Kelce has still got obviously benefits. I think Kelce's better in the screen game, and I think he's still better in pass pro than Jurgens at this stage of his career. But oh my goodness, man, he is ridiculous. And I still remember Jurgens in preseason, his first ever preseason. I wrote the BGN article, my film review of him in college, and I said he's either going to be the best player in the world or a total bust, because there's no in between. And I watched one preseason game, and I remember Ross Tucker was commenting on it, and he spent the whole game just going, oh my God, he's so good. And after that, I was like, that's it. We're in. I've never watched him again, and I'm telling you, he'll be an all-pro. He's so explosive in space. He's fun to watch.
We used to do the thing with the Colts where it was I can't believe they went from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck, or with the Packers where it's I can't believe they went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. It got out of that at the right time, by the way, into Jordan Love. For the Eagles version is literally I can't believe they went straight from Jason Kelce into Cam Jurgens. They literally lost a Hall of Fame, All-Pro, best center in the NFL, and they already might have the best center in the NFL again. So it's just crazy.
Shane, before you finish, you might want to redact your last statement, because Aaron Rodgers is QB 13 this year and has been better than Jalen Hurts, down to some QB rankings that was still up. They still had him above Hurts as of last week. So maybe his performance this week will put certain people off. But let's not talk about QB rankings again. Right, finish your point, because we need to get for defense, because my wife's lunch date with herself is supposed to end in 20 minutes, and we haven't spoken about defense yet. And as much as it would be quite good content watching her walk into the hotel filming, I would rather not get to that stage.
Yeah, let's just get your wife in on the All-22 film review. Like, you throw up the
Do you know what?
defensive clips
Yeah,
and she can give her commentary.
She did watch the Eagles game with me when we were at dinner on my phone. She does know. She probably knows more about NFL than any English sport, which is quite funny because she actually watches it more often. She is a Cardinals fan because she refused to watch the same team as me, but she never really watches them ever. So I just tell her like how the Cardinals are. But yeah, she does actually understand some of it. So yeah, if she walks in, I'll ask her for a quick take on Cam Jurgens in space. Yeah, there you go.
That. All right.
It'll probably be who and what.
Yeah. No, I think instead you should ask her about like Fangio's tricks coverage or something like that. But
yeah,
all right,
well, really well.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's dive into the defense. Jonny, do you want to lead us off or do you want me to?
That's a very good question, Shane. It totally depends on what I am starting with. Based on the facts, no, do you know what? I will lead us off because I think I've got the biggest talking point this week. So when we picked our points, I jumped in the chat with the defense early because I wanted to talk about him. He was the point of a lot of discussion on the Shane Page Discord this morning. So for those of you that are in the Discord, you may hear a few things. Sorry, that's a great comment by Matt. I should put dollars in a jar every time he brings up the Ringer QB rankings. College fun for the kid. Firstly, Matt, I didn't say the Ringer, so that's on you. And secondly, I don't own any dollars, so that's also on you.
Nobody knows what QB rankings he was talking. I think Jonny was talking about his own QB rankings. So
yes, I'm the only one that still has Aaron Rodgers at the top 13.
There may or may not be a clip that comes out later of Jonny saying Aaron Rodgers has outperformed Jalen Hurts.
Oh, there we go. Brilliant. So I'm sure the Discord will like that. So yeah, the Discord have already had the Quinyon Mitchell chat, so I'm not going to go into those listening too much more detail than we've already had it. Quinyon Mitchell will show a few flaws of late, and I will put a full disclaimer on. I think cornerback is the hardest position outside of quarterback to play in the league as a rookie, and I think as a rookie cornerback, he has been exceptional. I also think he had a spell of about 6 or 7 weeks when no one threw at him because his coverage was good, and I'm not sure it's helped him. Because I think there's a few things that he could still work on. And I will be honest, I think going into the playoffs, if I'm an offensive coordinator who plays the Eagles, I would be going after him. Like, if we play some good teams, I would be targeting him. I would find out early on what's happening. There's been a few plays this year, and especially the Terry McLaurin one, that just looked a bit off, and you were like, yeah, the technique's letting him down a little bit. There were a few different issues, I think, in this game. I think there were 3 issues in this game that I noticed. And 3 sounds scary. It's not scary. He can work on all 3 of them. I think some of them are consistent issues that we've seen throughout the year. Some of them are one-off. So I'll start with the first catch he gave up, which is play number 2 on my film thread. I think this might be maybe trying to be too complacent in not getting the football. So he's in a press man position here, which I think he's better at. And he runs this play perfectly. Like, he's in a really, really, really good position on this one. But what he does is, it sounds very basic. He turns the wrong way. So he actually turns like inside out. He almost does like a little spin. So rather than turn your body, like a quarter of it or whatever, what am I trying to say? I can't get my degrees right. What's a quarter degrees? 90 degrees or whatever?
90 degrees.
90 degrees. Rather than turn your body 90 degrees and play the receiver, he turns like a full 360 and does a complete spin. And when you actually look, Shane, if you pause it there, he's not looking at the receiver. So I think he's getting greedy here, and I think he's expecting a go ball, and I think he's got that interception on his mind. And I think he wants to run down the field looking at the football, and he ends up literally staring at the quarterback, which you never want to be looking at the quarterback in man coverage on a comeback route, because you've got absolutely zero chance of covering the receiver. Like, I don't think he has any idea really that this guy's running a comeback route. If I was talking about concerns, Quinyon Mitchell in press man coverage on comeback routes is not a big concern of mine, personally. I think that's more of a one-off than a consistent flaw. I think the next play I'll show is not a flaw. I think it's an area he could improve on. I think there's a difference. Play number 4 on my film thread. He just gets beat. It's a jump ball. It's a touchdown he gave up. Was it Talbot that beat him here?
Yes, I think it was.
And I think it's very easy to be like, oh my God, he got beat by Talbot. I'm like, lads, these are NFL professional wide receivers. Anyone could make a freakish one-handed catch at any point. Talbot's still probably like 6'1" and can probably catch a fade ball as well as like 99% of normal human beings. So I don't think this is like a flaw. I think he plays this pretty well. He's in good position. I think he's just, and he does get his hand up. I think it's just fair to point that Quinyon's strength is not really the catch point. I think he's a bit like Darius Slay in many ways. I think he's better in coverage than he is at the catch point. And I think teams should basically, if I was an offensive coordinator, I would be testing him in the air. I would be throwing a lot of 50-50s at him and see like basically how things go. I'm not that concerned about this play at all. I think this is a relatively there's relatively good coverage on this play. I think he gets his hand up. I don't think he plays through the receiver's hands well enough. So I think he just sort of swings a hand up in the air. I think he looks at the receiver's eyes, and when he sees the receiver's hands go up, he just basically raises his hands, which is okay. But what I'd rather him do is then bring that hand through the football and almost like try to rip the receiver's two hands away from each other. He almost just sends up like a hand up in the air. So again, it's a technique issue. It's not a huge deal. The last one for me is the biggest problem. So play 5, he gets beat by Jonathan Mingo on a stop and go route. And the second I watched this, I was a little bit like, he's really off balance here. So the problem is, as we've been discussing on the Discord this morning, is that he flips his hips too early. So if you compare it to Darius Slay, who, by the way, Shane, Darius Slay also getting away with it this week, not getting spoken about because he didn't have a great game. He gets burned as well, Slay. But Quinyon is really like side on. He flips his hips early. He's not very square. And when
Slay's actually beat worse than Quinyon.
Oh, yeah. Slay is killed. And I think Quinyon's got better recovery speed than Slay does. And by the way, if they'd thrown to Slay, Shane, that'd be 2 weeks in a row he's given up a big catch because he got done last week again as well last week by Washington. Quinyon's really on his back foot. So the thing that I noticed immediately about this one is when Mingo comes out of his break, look how like Quinyon is actually leaning back. Like he's almost like stuck there. That is not a good position for a cornerback to be in. He would struggle to cover anything here. He struggled to cover an out. He struggled to cover an out and up as he does. He'd get absolutely killed by anything in breaking as well because he's so side on. He's not square at all. Like he'd have to fully rotate. He'd end up grabbing and getting done for a hold here if there was an in route. This is not a great rep. And I think if we're fair, like we love Quinyon. As I said, he's had an unbelievable rookie season. When you get down to the playoffs, fans don't really care if you're a rookie or you're a 10-year pro. You want to win. And I think teams are going to go after him in the playoffs. I think based on what we've seen the last few weeks, I think Washington had a few reps with him where he was beat. And he obviously was beat pretty badly a fair few times this week. I think it's also worth pointing out that Slay was beat last week for a long catch, and he was beat this week, although the ball wasn't thrown his way. He also got beat really badly by Brandon Cooks on a 22-yard catch in the first quarter. So although the Eagles quarterbacks have been really good this year, there has been a few signs of weakness the last couple of weeks. And if I'm an opposing offensive coordinator, I'm going after them early on in the playoffs and seeing how they handle it.
Yeah, he was Quinyon Mitchell was also poor as a tackler in run defense a couple times in this game. I also thought there was 2 plays, including the first one you showed. I thought his feet slid a little bit as he tried to plant and drive back. There's another one where it was even more obvious, like he slides all the way down to a knee. So it felt like he was having some footing issues as well, which you don't typically see on your home field. You see that sometimes where guys are changing spikes or cleats mid-game, and I don't know if he did or not, but it certainly felt like he was having some footing issues as well. So something to monitor. I'm not concerned about Quinyon Mitchell, but I do think you're going to see his Defensive Rookie of the Year campaign's falling apart before your eyes, and I do think teams are going to continue to try to challenge him a little bit in the postseason, like you said.
Yep, I agree. Right. What was your first point on defense? Go for it.
All right, I will talk Orin Burks.
Get excited. 50 minutes into the pod. Orin Burks talk. This is why we do the show, Shane. Everyone on the edge of their seat. What is Shane going to say about Orin Burks?
Yeah, and I do think it's important because, one of the major concerns, I think, about the linebacker crew coming into the year was Nakobe Dean's expected to start, and, well, maybe he wasn't because of Devin White, but that was the whole thing. But Nakobe Dean durability concerns, and Nakobe Dean has been durable this year, but he finally missed a game, and Orin Burks had to start, and he played a lot in this game, and I thought he generally played well. Like watching him live, I was like, okay, I didn't notice him other than the punch out, and so that's good for a backup. I thought he did a good job on this run. He's number 42 here that I circled, and I think he does a good job of not like over pursuing. It'd be really easy for a backup to just really desperately want to make a play. And he just kind of sits there, and then he's there to help make the tackle off of the cutback lane. So I thought that was nice. Then you get him on the next play. He does a good job of sorting pre-snap motion. He's pushing it out. He doesn't over pursue it, and he kind of stays here and is able to get in on the tackle. So again, solid in the run game, I thought was good. This is the punch out play. It's a play action pass. And again, I think he does a pretty good job of not overcommitting on the play action, and he's here to get in on the tackle. Now, I think it might have been a little bit of a luck thing that he got the punch out, because when you see it from the back view, it really feels like he kind of overran this and threw his arms out for the tackle and got lucky on the ball. I don't think it's like he had sight on the ball trying to punch it out, but still, I mean, you make the play, you force a fumble as a backup. That's a good day in the office. This is the bad rep. We've got him right here. This is going to be a same side toss play action. And if you just watch him, watch how he reacts to play action. He starts on the left hash. Rumor has it that Burks is still chasing the run action on this play. I'm not sure he ever realized it was a pass play. He chased it into the locker room, down the tunnel. So this was a bad rep of his, and it's the last one I really noticed for him in the game. And you can see him there again, way overreacting. At the end of the day, you're allowed a bad play as a backup getting stuck into the starting lineup. And I thought he played fine. He played 51 snaps. He had a pressure. He had 2 defensive stops. He led the team in tackles, partially due to a horrendous tackling day from Zack Bond that I'll get to in a minute. But, I think if he has to get inserted into a playoff game for a fourth quarter or something because a guy gets dinged up, I think you can feel okay about that. I don't think he's going to light the world on fire. I also don't think he's going to light the defense on fire and burn it down.
Yeah, I wrote about this in my BGN article. I said, the fact we're this happy about the Eagles' third linebacker, it's like, oh my God, Shane, we've been through some bad linebackers. Orin Burks, Jeremiah Trotter would both be the Eagles' best linebacker last year, if you ignore, obviously, when the Kobe Dean was healthy. Dean and Bourne have been a huge benefit to his defense. I've basically thought the exact same as you with Burks. I thought he was fine. I didn't think, wow, he deserves a starting job. I think the Eagles clearly have a good idea of who should be playing. There was a couple of reps where I thought he was a little bit passive coming downhill, and I think the Kobe Dean is better at just sort of going. And I think the Eagles missed him a little bit in run defense. Right, I'm going to talk about, do you know what, actually, Shane? I'm going to save my final point for the end. Let's go negative now. I'll do a very, very quick negative point, and then I'll end with my favorite point of the week, because I think the interceptions are really cool. I'm just going to show one play, play 9. And my final point is on Bryce Huff, which feels a bit harsh because he barely played. But I'm also showing this because Anthony commented saying, I'm here for the Jeremiah Trotter talk. So on this play, Jeremiah Trotter's in. This is the right end of the game. And 2 players that are really good on this play. Watch Jeremiah Trotter and watch Thomas Booker. The Eagles' 5th defensive tackle and the Eagles' 4th linebacker. Booker blows through a double team, which is awesome to see. And Trotter ends up pressing the initial hole, sees the running back cutting it back, and then lays an absolute sort of huge hit. I think he lays a huge hit, or he just sort of bounces off him. It's a bit of a strange one, but that's a really good play by a linebacker. That's really good by Trotter. So that's a really, really cool play to see what Booker and Trotter do. However, Shane, for those of you watching, Bryce Huff is blocked out of the park by a tight end. And I mean wrecked. Basically lifted. I mean, I'm watching, so it's not very good podcasting. But if you haven't seen it, please go and watch it. The way I can describe it is the tight end throws him to the ground like he's a child, not like he's a starting edge defender who cost the Eagles a lot of money this year. I watched that play and I was like, yeah, in the playoffs, he's not playing on first down. You play Alex Hunt over him any day of the week in early downs. If the Eagles signed him and took a risk and hoped he could play in early downs, I know he's been injured, but I'm not taking that risk in the playoffs. It doesn't mean he's useless. Doesn't mean he doesn't have value. Third down pass rushers are worth a hell of a lot of money. But I watched that rep and I was like, yeah, that's not good. So I'll throw not my final point. I'll throw the negative in there that I was not impressed by Bryce Huff in limited reps at all in this game.
Yeah, it's not ideal when you're heading into the playoffs and you're like, hey, you know what? Take the safety that you drafted from Cornell and play him as an edge defender over your $17 million free agent acquisition in the playoffs. That's never right.
Sometimes it's so obvious, Shane, breaking down football. Everyone knew what the risk was. Everyone who watched Bryce Huff was I found it a bit odd, actually. There were some guys that really liked him in the offseason. just his flaws. Like, oh, it's not a risk. It's not a risk. I was like, of course it's a risk. Like, that doesn't mean it's wrong. I'm not blaming Howie Roseman, because if he's a great third down pass rusher and doesn't get injured, it's still a relatively okay signing, because third down pass rushers cost a fortune anyway. But like some people out there, they were like, oh, but you see, he actually played the run quite well. I'm like, it doesn't matter. He never played. It's easy to play the run quite well when you play like 20% of the snaps or whatever he was playing at times. Like, yeah, Matt, you commented saying if Huff was good on the Jets. It's basically what I just said. He just didn't play enough. Like, the sample size wasn't enough. Like, he played in very specific situations where it was third and long, put your head down and go after the QB. I just think football in general, like, it's the same about running backs who look good in very, very limited touches. You give them more touches and they're not as good. It's just really hard. Like, it's really hard to be good consistently when you're playing 60, 70, 80% of the snaps. You get more film on you. Teams can key on you more, and you have to play more. You get fatigued more. I don't think there was anything magic. I think basically he was signed to play a role this year, and long story short, he hasn't been able to play that role. And that's the risk when you sign someone. But yeah, Matt, there is no doubt he was good. Like, absolutely no doubt. Numbers were good. Film was good. Analytics were good. He was a good pass rusher, but that's all he was. You might see the occasional guy on Twitter be like, look at this great run stop. And I'm like, yeah, but that's a one-off. He was not doing it multiple times a game, playing 80% of the snaps. So yeah, there you have it. Right, I've lost my points. You're going to talk about Zack Bond being terrible at tackling and why the Eagles should sign him to a one-year, $2 million extension, because apparently Zack Bond is now bad. So if Zack Bond's agent is watching, sign the contract quickly as Shane takes down your player. Talk to me about Zack Bond in this game.
Yeah, I was just going to pull this up from back in the offseason. I put out like stats on Huff, and Huff just didn't play a lot of snaps. He only played 132 run defense snaps in 2023. And if you look at and again, we don't love PFF grades, but if you look at his run defense grade, it was a 48, and his pass rush grade was an 86.8. So, I mean, he was definitely majorly signed to be a pass rusher, and he's tremendously light. That's something that we pointed out. I was trying to search back through and see, I was talking about when he was signed, I said that he was a situational pass rusher, but you don't pay him $17 million a year to be situational. You need him to be an every down player. And the question was, is he going to hold up his same efficiency over expanded volume, and will he hold up in the running game? And I said that the Eagles are taking a swing on what they hope is an ascending player. And I had some concerns about it, and the concerns have come to fruition, but that doesn't mean it was it's a process thing. You can't just look at results, because lots of free agent acquisitions fail. Lots of draft picks fail. I think the process was sound. I mean, they were basically decided to sign him and trade Hassan Reddick, and Hassan Reddick didn't do anything this year. I would have rather taken a swing on Bryce Huff as an ascending player than Hassan Reddick as a regressing player at that contract. I don't know I saw a guy that knew how to chain pass rush moves together, and I don't know what happened to that, because he didn't really show that. Now, he was adapting to a new scheme early in the year. He got injured in the middle of the year, and all of that contributes. I'm not totally out on him. I'm still hopeful he can become a useful player. I just don't know that he's going to be that useful this season.
I'll just finish the Huff discussion. Matt comment saying, can he get better? Yeah, I think he can. I think he could easily still be a good pass rusher. I think he's hurt at the moment. I also think there were a lot of people who compared his weight to Reddick at the combine. He looks the same. And again, I was like, yeah, but watch the film. He is small. I'm not talking just pure weight. I mean, watch the film. You get a sense when you watch film of someone's genetics, their lower body. You can see big guys. You get a sense of a size. He is small. Nolan Smith was very small, but Nolan Smith wasn't incredibly aggressive against the run. Huff was never, ever that guy. Right. Let's get going, Shane, because I've got about 10 minutes, I reckon, and I want to do a little bit on the interceptions. So let's speed things up for the last 10 minutes.
Okay, let's do it. I'll run through my last two really quickly, and then
do both. Then that makes sense. Seeing as the best Eagles defensive players as well, in my opinion, that is anyway.
Yeah. So I was just going to talk about Zack Bond, who did struggle tackling in this game. He missed 4 tackles. He should clearly sign a 1-year, $2 million deal with the Eagles and learn how to tackle next year, and then hit free agency. But this first play is one of those missed tackles, and I just think it's an incredible play. He's going to run through And the way that he ducks the center here to get through untouched, and yeah, he misses the tackle. But like, this is such a good job of, he gets to the line quickly. He knows where the run's going, slips that tackle. And even though he doesn't make the tackle, he contacts the running back. He's got to make a move, and Milton Williams drags him down. I mean, I think that's a really good play. It'd be cooler if he sticks him for a 3 or 4 yard loss, but that was a good play by Zack Bond. But you guys all know Zack Bond is good. This play was my favorite play of the game, and it's the only other one I'm going to show. But the Eagles go into their 6-man front. Sorry, they go into a 5-man front, and they walk Zack Bond down on the line. Nolan Smith is out here because the Cowboys are actually in 11 personnel, but the Eagles are in base here. So you get Nolan Smith out on the edge. This is technically a 6-man front. They've just changed because of alignment. And so Zack Bond is walked down on the edge. And off the snap, Zack Bond like bluff rushes like 2 steps, and then he gets his hand up in the slant window. And, you know, he's edge rusher that changed to off-ball linebacker, and he's so useful as a player because he's good in space. He's good against the run. He's a good blitzer. You can walk him down to the edge. He's got so much versatility. But here it is from the back view, and I love that they just kick Josh Sweat inside. You can see the Cowboys are changing things up here because of the alignment shift, and he reads this out. It's a quick 3-step drop. The ball's going to come out, and he gets his hand up in the passing window. So I loved that from Zack Bond. Such a fun player to watch. Please re-sign with the Eagles and do it fast. So that's my Zack Bond thing. You want to say anything about Bond before I talk about my last guy?
No, just literally that. Sign him as quick as you can. I did say this last week, and I don't think I mentioned this on the pod because I didn't talk about Bourne. I feel like we need to get used to the fact that he's going to get paid like one of the best linebackers in the NFL. I know it wasn't his finest game, but any hometown discount after this week, you never know. Maybe some teams out there watch a few missed tackles. Who knows? But yeah, nothing major. And Shane, are you talking about Jalen Carter now? Did you pick to go with Carter?
Yes.
Thank goodness, because I realised that I said the Eagles' best 2 defensive players, then realised you might have spoken about Nolan Smith. And that'd be very high praise. No, that makes a lot more sense, my comment, knowing you're going to talk about Carter now.
Yes. I just wanted to show, it wasn't the most eye-popping game statistically from Jalen Carter. He doesn't show up much in the box score, but I'll show 3 plays here. This first play, we've got Nolan Smith right here. And sorry, you got me saying Nolan Smith now. We got Jalen Carter right here. And the line actually slides away from him to Milton Williams. And I think that's a testament to how well Milton Williams has played lately. But Carter gets the one-on-one, and he doesn't win. And he knows he's not going to win. And he also knows the ball's coming his way because Cooper Rush is staring at it, and he just gets his hand up and bats it down. And Nolan Smith almost gets the interception. I love Jalen Carter's reaction here when he thinks Nolan Smith is going to get this interception.
He lives
he sees
for this.
The ball on the ground.
Carter loves this, man. By the way, there's another clip you probably haven't got. But you know when Orin Burks got totally confused by play action? Jalen Carter nearly knocked that ball down as well. You don't need to show it. It's not that exciting. But he just stand up. He loves knocking down passes. I think the 2 things he wants more than anything are not sacks. They're knocking down passes that lead to interceptions and then intercepting, intercepting the end of the game. Oh my God, what the hell am I? I've gone, my mind's completely blank. When the QB snaps the ball and throws it on the floor.
Oh yeah, trying to intercept the spike.
He's so desperate to intercept a spike. Yeah, that's the one. The spike. Christ, long day. He is desperate to do those 2 things, man. You can see him get so happy on film whenever he knocks down a pass. It's like a weird obsession of his now. I think he lives for that moment.
Yeah. He got a pass break up there. Didn't do much as far as pressures in this game, but he had some really good plays in the run game. So I wanted to show 2 of those. This time you get him lined up over the left guard, which is a strange alignment for him. But watch, he just blows into the backfield here and swallows this run up. That's such a good play. He's so good in the run game. And then we get him back on his normal side here. Later in the game, he's lined up over the right guard. And once again, he doesn't get the tackle here, but he just blows this up. Look at the penetration that he gets. This ball's starting on the 33-yard line. And Jalen Carter is 3 yards in the backfield with hands on the ball carrier. Nolan Smith ends up making the tackle. But I thought Jalen Carter was really good in this game. Any thoughts on Jalen Carter?
Yeah, I think Carter might be a weird player where his numbers just don't reflect. Like, I don't know, it's been one of those years where you think he's like, oh, he's had a really good game, and you look at the numbers and you're like, oh, do you know what I mean? It's quite strange. He, at the moment, like, he's just not fully coming off for him numbers-wise. I think it will next year or one day, because I think he's been a bit unlucky. But yeah, I thought he had a really, really solid game as well. And I'm looking forward to him getting some rest this week, Shane, and then hopefully balling out in the playoffs, because I think he's one of those players that is that good, he will step up around him. He will step up when sort of the games get more important as well. Right, I'm going to get to my final point, which is the Eagles.
I need to point out something before
we
we move on, and that's that the second play that I showed wasn't actually Jalen.
It's a Jomo, isn't it? I did. Yeah,
and I was going to try to sneak that one in, just because I wanted to point out it looks.
We're honest here.
Like
I must have missed you. I saw you play that play, and I thought Carter did something else that I missed, and I was like, oh no, that is a Jomo. Yeah, no. The Eagles have 3 defensive tackles that can make freakish plays that look like Jalen Carter, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, these plays back to back, they're both so disruptive. And when I tweeted that play, I said that Moro Ojomo's been watching Jalen Carter film, and it's so true. And so I wanted to see if I could sneak that one by on you and the viewers without anybody catching it. But yeah, it's impressive. And Moro Ojomo, Milton Williams, like the Eagles have such good defensive tackle rotation right now. Yeah,
Davis didn't play that much in this one, did he? Yeah, I think Davis is slowly becoming the forgotten man in terms of he has one role. But anyway, I'm going to finish with, I think the 2 Eagles interceptions, Shane, were awesome this week. Like, they're such fun plays to break down. So I'll finish on a high with these 2 plays. And they weren't just Cooper Rush's crap, which is easy to think. They were actually really good plays. So the first play of the game, or first interception of the game, is a really, really good play. So the Eagles are basically playing like cover 1 robber here, which is essentially like a form of cover 1 man coverage where you have a middle hole defender, should we say. Now, when Fangio plays this, is what he normally does is he has an option, there you go if you're watching, where the linebacker or the safety could become the hole defender. So what I mean by that is basically if the inside receiver runs to the out, he'll become the safety's man, and the linebacker will become the free defender. If he runs to an inside route, then the safety will become the free man. So it's really cool. And I think Cooper Rush doesn't recognize this. So Cooper Rush thinks that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson has got man coverage on the slot receiver. So Cooper Rush takes a snap, and he thinks that Chauncey is nowhere to be seen. And if Zack Bond's the whole defender, he's obviously quite central. Therefore, he thinks the slant is going to be wide open. What he hasn't realized is that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson has actually passed the receiver off to Zack Bond. And that means that he then becomes the robber defender himself, or the hole defender, whatever you want to call it. And he reads Cooper Rush all the way. I think the other reason why this play happened, Shane, is the defensive tackle you've mentioned already, is Milton Williams. So if you look at the pass rush on this play, Milton Williams blows up, I believe, the right guard and just walks straight into Cooper Rush. And I think that forces Cooper Rush to throw early. It also, we watched the game from the All-22, Shane, but you have to think a defensive tackle in your face can also basically block your view, and it's possible that he doesn't see Chauncey Gardner-Johnson sitting in the middle of the field as well. So it's a really cool play. It's not just a terrible throw by Rush, which it looked like live. Yes, it is a bad throw, by the way. He stares it down, Cooper Rush. But it's a great example of Fangio's man coverage looking really successful, because not every team allows you to pass off the individual receiver. It takes good communication. It does mean that there's more problems that could go wrong. Are you going to point to, is it Cooper DeJean next to him?
Just I like to think in my head that after the dropped balls before the end zone the last couple of weeks around the NFL, I like to think that Cooper DeJean is like sprinting down the field, pointing at the pylon, just pointing it out to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
Don't drop it. Man, Cooper's awesome. Cooper DeJean's awesome. And then my absolute favorite play was the second interception by Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. It is a shame he stole it off Quinyon, but it's also cool that he did it himself, because it meant I could talk about how good he is. So there's a few things I want to show on this play. It is film 6 on my film thread. So basically, I'm going to do this quickly because I've probably got less than 5-minute countdown. The Cowboys are running a 3-level stretch here, which is a short route, an intermediate route, and a deep route. However, they're running a deep post and an intermediate out. This is the classic, Shane, cover 4 beta. Anyone that's played Madden, if you go on Google and you type in cover 4 beta, it will give you this concept. Because the idea is the safety drives down on the intermediate out, which means the outside cornerback has to cover the post route, and he has outside leverage. And also the outside cornerback can sometimes get a little bit complacent because he thinks he's got safety. So there's a couple of amazing things that happened on this play. Firstly, I want you to watch the weak side safety, Reed Blankenship. He recognizes that he's in tricks coverage here, and he basically gets over and helps out. He sees this happening. So he points out to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I'll help out vertically. So already you've got a really good play by one member of the secondary in Reed Blankenship. Then if we roll back the same play again, I think Quinyon Mitchell was also in really good position here in the sort of hip pocket. And if this is thrown vertically, I think he would have the speed to stay with this anyway. So I'm not worried. I think it's a good play by Quinyon. I think the two best plays, though, are Cooper DeJean and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I think Cooper DeJean does such a good job getting depth here. So a lot of quarterbacks will take the short route, and they'll therefore have the intermediate out thrown over their heads. Cooper DeJean, even though he can't see him, even though he can't see what's behind him, he feels that there's someone behind him. He knows that he doesn't need to stand next to the short guy because he can close and tackle. So he gets a real lot of depth here. What that depth allows Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to do is basically just play off instincts. And rather than charge downhill on the out route like he should do, he actually is looking at Cooper Rush. And because I think of Cooper DeJean's depth, he's basically able to make this play. But he looks at Rush, he knows what's coming, he spots the post through, he flips his hips, he gets back around, and he does catch it as well. And he's made some really clutch, I think that's his 5th interception this year.
6th, actually.
It is 6th. And also, what's Reed Blankenship got? 3 or 4?
I'm not sure on Reed. 3.
But either way, that must be how many teams have safeties that nearly have 10 interceptions between them, starting safety duo, which is pretty cool. So,
meanwhile, the Eagles cornerbacks have 0 interceptions.
Yes. Meanwhile, the quarterbacks cannot pick the ball off. But this is a really cool play because this play is designed to beat this exact defensive coverage. And technically, Chauncey plays it wrong, you could argue, because he should take the intermediate out, but he just plays this off feel. I think Blankenship, DeJean, Quinyon, and Chauncey all play this really well. Yes, it's a bad throw by Cooper Rush. Yes, he should really look at this and realize that this is not on. But it's really cool when a play ends up causing an interception when the offense knows exactly the coverage they think you're going to run and they pick the perfect play call for that coverage, yet you still win. So I think the Eagles' interceptions this week were really cool.
Yeah, I agree. It's never a good thing as a quarterback, by the way, when there's 3 defenders closer to the ball than your nearest receiver. But there we have it. Ben chiming in says that Reed has 4 interceptions.
Yes, so it could be 10. Safety duo with 10 picks. That's someone with some time on their hands or with a knowledge. Someone tweet me later on after he looks up. When was the last time an Eagles safety duo had 10? Or how many NFL teams have 10 as well? But there we go. Right, I need to wrap things up, Shane.
All right, well.
I will leave you to do the outro. And
I was gonna say,
I have
that's all
nothing
the
else to
points.
add. I have nothing else to add for this week except for next week might be rough in terms of film. So we'll figure out what we're doing next week. If the film is rough, we'll do something else. But yeah, we'll figure it out. And I'll leave you to finish things off, Shane, for this week.
All right, that sounds good. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We will be back later this week for our Patreons doing a mailbag episode. So again, we talk about the Patreon. A lot of you guys watching, listening aren't in there. Come hang out with us. You can join as a free member and access a few things. And then we have a $3 and a $5 a month tier. We're running like a football simulation league through there. We talk about film in there. We just chat. We break pregnancy news in the Discord. So all kinds of great stuff. You can come hang out. We got a cap guy in there breaking down cap stuff. So I think you guys will really like it if you come join the Discord and hang out with us. You can check that out at patreon.com/ontheshanepage. I hope you guys all have a happy new year. Stay safe out there, and we will catch you guys next year for another episode of On the Shane Page.